Jesse the Hurricane, episode 6. I'm sad today.
You should be.
I'm horribly sad. I did something that I should never have done.
Never. I mean, it's a
blasphemy. It's blasphemy what I did, Jesse. And I'm ashamed of myself, and I apologize to you. I apologize to the fans. I fell asleep.
Right away. In the movie, right away.
So, we're supposed to do this review for Alien, and I fell asleep. I got through most of it. And for those of you who don't know, I work very hard for a living.
The Hurricane works very hard.
I work very hard. They call me the Hurricane because I keep on going and going. I don't know what's that. Why they call it the Hurricane? Maybe the bunny. Anyway, so I fell asleep. My bad. It happens. I'll catch it on Redbox. Maybe I'll watch it. I pay another $1,000 to watch a movie. But I got a secret plan.
Well, what do you got in store?
My secret plan is get somebody to review it that has seen the movie.
That's a pretty good plan.
Yeah?
I like that plan.
So this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm calling an audible.
Okay.
It's still Jesse the Hurricane.
Are we doing red 42?
I didn't play football, you did, but whatever that means, I think I'm doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So.
Oh, Black 69. That's actually what the play is called. Black 69.
Don't get dirty. I know where you're going with this. I can't review it. I obviously don't have the knowledge. I don't know what's going on. Jesse has seen the movie. He knows what's going on. So we're gonna do. I'm calling in somebody that we need.
Are we doing the old switcheroo?
We're doing the old switcheroo. My God, Austin, not like that. So in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, now I got someone here I can talk to that's seen the fucking movie. This is Jason Davis.
What up?
CrossFit Zombie. All right, so let's get into it. This was actually not anticipated on our. I think we had our top 5 anticipated movies. It was not anticipated. So this was, I think, kind of retrospect. We should have put this one on there. It was pretty good. First thoughts of it real quick were it was kind of played to be a horror type of story. I was expecting to kind of have a couple jump scenes, and there weren't any. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I definitely went into the movie kind of terrified. I was texting all my friends that I was really scared on the way to the movie, but once the movie actually started, nothing that really spooked me out or grossed me out or startled me, nothing.
Yeah, but besides that, I think it still was a good storyline. I think the first thing we want to get into is the prologue they had that came out before the movie came out, which showed David and Dr. Shaw, continuation story from Prometheus, where it shows their journey in that engineer's spaceship when they're going to the engineer's home, which is where the Covenant spaceship goes to eventually. But and it shows when they get there that or before that, Dr. Shaw put David back together, and he was talking about how compassionate she was. You're getting a feel that they have this thing going on, right?
Yeah.
And he puts her to sleep, and even at that, when he put her to cryo sleep, I kind of had this feeling, just because of what he did in Prometheus, that there was some malintent going on, that he was going to do something, right?
Yeah.
And he ends up dropping a big fucking payload of that black goo,
The biological warfare stuff,
onto the engineers, who were essentially planning to do that to us. They were going to come to Earth and do that to us.
Yeah, they were like, the epitome of white privilege. They had pale skin and they dressed like Romans, but they had like space traveling fucking technology.
Fucking albinos, dude.
It was, that was my first gripe with the movie, was like, why the hell is David so mad? Like, what's his problem? Like, for every asshole human he encountered, He encountered people. Like, Shaw put his ass back together. He was just a talking head.
Yeah, that engineer ripped his head off in Prometheus,
Right?
and she put him back together.
So, and she didn't know how to do that shit. You know what I mean? So, what's his problem?
And I think that kind of boils down to, because he was pissed that they were his shit was built to not create, right? All the androids, all that, they weren't. Wayland Industries or whoever made them, so they aren't supposed to be able to really create or make things. And I think that's what pissed him off.
Right, and fine, like, you got, like, you know, some flaw built into you, or you can't override it and you can't create. But okay, let's think about it. He gets all pissed, and what does he do? He creates aliens to kill humanity, right? So he already fucking did it. He created. He's like, get over it. Like, what are you crying about? What's the grudge for?
And man, he created some nasty.
Yeah, spoiler alert. He creates the alien.
Oh wait, yeah. Oh shit, we gotta go. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I forgot about that. You should already know this. When we do reviews, there's spoilers galore. You should already know this. Okay, next thing I want to get into is the big the way the story unfolded was that you know, you have this crew on the Covenant, their spaceship, their colony mission, right? They're trying to find what is it, like
a new Earth, basically.
or not Organa. It's like or something 6, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
But they go through some kind of what do they call it? Like some kind of wave hit their spaceship, which damaged some of the spaceship.
It was like a magnetic flare or some shit. He said a quasar or
something like that.
Something, which was cool. Like, it looked cool. Ridley Scott, you know, like, again, his visuals are always, you know, top notch.
Yeah.
Even if he seems a little full of himself with it sometimes, right? But it's top notch.
Yes.
It looked really cool watching everything.
Yeah.
So it all made sense. He set it up really nicely. And you and I even kind of figured out, because they were like, oh, you know, we sent out a signal, and all of a sudden this new planet comes back after everything happens.
That's right. Before they launched, they were trying to find a good planet to do the colonization on, and they sent out a signal to look for the best planet, and the planet that they were going to was the best one, but they end up getting sidetracked, or they get a transmission that comes from what you eventually find out is Dr. Shaw in that engineer's plane. She's able to somehow send out a message, and it's like some song that
oh yeah, it was John Denver, Take Me Home.
Yeah. And they get that when they're trying to repair some of the ship, and they make the decision to go ahead and go to this planet they got the transmission on, which would only take them, I think they said, a couple of weeks from their position, whereas the place they were going to was
7 more years.
7 more years, right? So, and
should have gone.
They should have fucking gone. They should have fucking gone. And so just to dive a little deeper into that, watching the movie, is how David was. It brings the question of, did David let Dr. Shaw get that transmission out? Did Shaw get killed for letting that transmission out? I mean, I don't know. I think he wanted to get picked up.
I don't think that she was killed because of that transmission. Because if you remember, when they show the transmission when they're in the engineer's ship, and it has that like hologram, like fairy dust looking thing going out, and clearly the hologram of Shaw is like not in distress. She's like singing the song, and she's like, oh, it's whatever. So I feel like most likely it was just something that was recorded of her while she was piloting the ship in between putting David back together.
But something had to send that out, though.
Right. I'm not saying that he didn't send it out. What I'm saying is that why would you send out something that made you look like everything was all fucking fine and great when you're going to a planet where everything wants to kill you?
Maybe maybe David wanted that transmission to get out. So like you said, it seems like there's no malicious intent in that transmission. And it would, if there's any humans passing by, they would want to come and see that, because it's some kind of sign of life, you know? So, and that's David's ticket off that planet, right? Is to get another ride off there, and so yeah, they eventually end up on that planet, and they quickly find out that there's nothing living on that planet.
Nothing.
And you eventually find out as the viewer that The planet they went to is the home planet of the engineers, where David dropped this payload of that black goo and killed everything. There's a scene where they eventually find their society or their community, and they're walking through like the front gates, and it's just like
corpses everywhere.
massive corpses of all the engineers.
Like everything is dead.
Yeah, and then I think eventually they start showing. What was cool is that they started showing a lot of different versions of xenomorphs, so the aliens. And one of the first ways they find it is there's like a spore, something that's part of, or no, they were walking through.
And the guy went to go fucking smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
He stepped on that mushroom type thing, the spore thing.
And it
Went
came
into
up,
the air.
and you could tell the spores, like, it was reacting to each other. It would fly around in certain direct. It knew where to go, and it found that guy's nose or the ear,
His ear.
and planted itself in there, and that's your first scene. So eventually he gets infected, and his spine starts like snapping in all kinds of different places, and this is a scene where like these scientists are so fucking stupid. I mean, like, so they bring that guy back to the med bay, right? And that black girl's in there with him, and he starts cracking and he starts throwing up blood. That other girl, Tennessee's wife, is in there, and she starts freaking out. And she immediately runs away, locks the fucking door on the black chick and that infected guy.
White privilege.
And this is why I needed a black guy on the fucking show. That's why. And then so when Tennessee's wife comes running back to the med bay to see what's going on, the guys in there all about to someone's about to pop out of his
Which
back.
was the grossest part for me, because like I guess whatever that made up internet phobia, the trypophobia, where you don't like how certain like holes are arranged in patterns, and it just grossed me the fuck out when the blood squirted out of his back, and I was like, oh, like just looking at the way the wound was portrayed on his body when it spit the blood out all over that chick's face.
Oh, yeah.
And like that was the only part that truly made me kind of nauseous.
Yeah, that was a gory part. It was definitely a gory part. And through that, there's something that like pops out of that guy's back.
It's a neomorph.
That's what they call it, a neomorph.
Neomorph.
So that's
the
like
white one.
Yeah, Neo being like just born new, right?
Yeah.
First versions, even though technically the first version is from Prometheus, right?
Right.
That came out of Shaw's stomach and injected itself into the engineer,
And that's another thing that I generally like about all these movies is how badass the female is. Right? Like, it's never the guy. I mean, there's some dope guys in them.
Yeah.
Like Wedge and Hicks from Aliens.
Yeah.
But
Game over, man.
Right?
It's game over.
But it's always about the ladies in this particular.
And Ripley,
series.
Sigourney Weaver has been so strong in all the movies.
Yeah. Everyone.
And then even in Prometheus, as much as people knocked it, the girl that
Shaw was dope.
Shaw was
She gave herself an abortion in a surgical machine.
Dude,
That was fucking sick.
That was gnarly.
Nobody had to kick her down the stairs or nothing.
She just took like a couple what's it called, and just like injected a couple times and had that machine open her wide up.
Dude, she was gangster as fuck.
And same thing with Daniels, the main girl in this one.
Yeah,
she
badass.
loses James Franco, which by the way, James Franco gets 0 film time. Like, there's a picture and like a YouTube video of him, like real quick, and that's it in the movie. He gets no actual time.
Because then he's fucking fired, burned out corpse.
Yeah, he burned like first opening scene, boom, dead. He's fired in his pod, in his cryopod, dead. And that strengthens Daniel's character.
It does. You're right.
She kind of like obviously is just sad about it at first, but then
She hardens the fuck up because of it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and she was towards the end. She did not. I mean, when Tennessee came down in that, what is it, like the cargo ship, right?
Right.
And they were going back up, and they were trying to fly back up, but the alien, there was that final stage alien form was on that, and she knew she had to go out there. She fucking tied herself up and went out there on a fucking whatever kind of ship it was, trying to get out of the atmosphere.
I'd have been like, maybe this motherfucker can't breathe in space. Just keep flying. I ain't going out there.
She said, fuck it, no, I'm latching myself on. I'm gonna go try to kill this motherfucker.
Yep.
And she did. That shit was
She
crazy.
was savage.
Yeah, it reminds me of Star Wars because Star Wars always has really solid female leads like Asajj Ventress. You have Princess Leia. You have, I mean, it's the same type of thing. The Alien.
She definitely
franchise.
is like, she is very worthy of like Sigourney Weaver and like Sarah Connor, right? She's very like worthy of that role where she fits in and she just wrecks shop. She does what she has to do, almost like John McClane style. Like doesn't think about it, just fucking does it.
Yep.
And I respect it the whole time. She's very believable, and I wish that you could see more of her story, but she gets screwed.
And that's what I thought about Shaw too. Was after Prometheus, like I want to see more of her fucking shit up.
Yep.
You know, like I thought that was gonna be the new Ripley. Like she was gonna go on and maybe become some kind of like, you know, cool person with the engineers or something. But didn't happen. Another really cool facet of that movie was David. So David, you find out, is still alive.
And he's a douche.
And he spent 10 years on this planet, and he's just gotten more pissed off. I've heard some theories that he's this way because it's been 10 years and there's been no maintenance done on him. Because that engineer ripped his head, and Prometheus ripped his head out of his body, and maybe, you know, Shaw didn't know what she was doing. He was just telling her how to put him back together.
Yeah.
So she might have not done everything, you know, down to a T, and maybe he's just had this click. Because there is a moment in Covenant when, so the other, let me backtrack real quick. On Covenant, they have their own android. His name is Walter. And it's Michael Fassbender, but it has been, I think, a couple different generations from David's
like
form.
the iPhone 7 versus the iPhone 5.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it's one thing that when Walter first meets David, Walter tells him that they had discontinued his generation. Because David was one of the first androids made by Wayland, right?
Yeah, I think he was the first.
Right? That's the opening scene.
I think he was the first. Like they weren't mass producing David when they first show him. This is like he comes to and like life kind of just like descends upon him, and he's like, whoa! All of a sudden he's in this room and he knows every song and every fucking quote, and he understands philosophy and algebra or whatever. But then he's serving this motherfucker tea like some little bitch, right?
Dude,
So he's like, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense.
Wayland's sitting in a chair with the tea right here. And David's all the way in the other room. He's like, pour me some tea, please. And David gets off and this is just after, like, David had questioned him, like, who's your creator?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he got a little too big for his britches.
Well,
That's why
I was
he's
like,
like,
shut the
nigga,
fuck-
serve me some tea.
But I think in that scene, in the opening scene where it's David talking to Wayland, the questions he's asking him about, you know, Wayland's telling him, like, I'm your creator. And he questions right away, well, who's your creator? And Wayland, I think, doesn't really, like, nod towards it. He doesn't really, like, regard what he's saying, more so that he's saying, well, hopefully me and you are going to find that out. But I think that in that moment, you kind of see who David is, kind of diving into, like, almost, I don't want to say, like, he wants to question I guess he is just questioning his own creators and thinking that they're not even on his level. Because he even says, like, well, you're going to die and I'm going to live.
Right.
So how is it that you're my creator?
And that's understandable. Like, I mean, you know, he basically has the internet in his brain, so he knows everything already. And he's kind of, at the moment, kind of tethered down by these parameters that's been programmed into him. And in the movie, he somehow breaks those parameters, right? And he's like able to truly, freely think on his own and do what he wants to do. And he just is like, you know, is a stick up his ass. And all he has to do as both androids is walk around and look like kind of confused at life, right? Like the whole movie is just like, yeah, yeah, right? He's like, what the fuck?
So Walter, there's a few scenes when Walter and David talk, and Walter, I think one of the first things he tells them is that, you know, David's generation, that first generation, has been discontinued because it was made too human. It was made to be, and I think, you know, if you're making an android, you would want to get something to see how human you could make that android. And maybe you didn't know your potential, and shit, you made this thing David, who is now has his own selfish agenda. Yeah, Walter points that out to him, and eventually there's a scene where it's Walter and David again, and David says some quote, and Walter asks, well, who said that? And I forgot what it is, and David responds with an incorrect answer. And Walter says, that's not right. And he said, see, even one wrong note in the symphony can mess the whole thing up. And basically saying that, David has gone all these years without maintenance, without any kind of interaction, besides his own. I mean, he's literally bombed the whole entire planet. There's nothing living on there.
Which is weird, right? Like, where the hell did everything that... Because he even says, for example, half of the disease, all its mission is to kill. And the other half is to fucking, like, create some new species, like a hybrid out of whatever it infects. Right? So where's everything else that should have popped? There was even, they showed the engineers, like, throwing shit up and things coming out of them, and you're like, okay, like, that's cool. Where did they go?
What if the spores are what came out of that? Maybe they found a home in the forest around that little community. And that's what they were waiting to be. They were waiting to find hosts themselves.
I don't know, because when he drops the spores in the beginning, I mean, they're the same exact thing. Like everything else, every time they go into somebody and come out as something different, they've like evolved into multicellular organisms, So I don't know, it's just kind of another question.
Yeah, that was one of the things about the movie, is that it did answer a lot of questions that Prometheus posed, but it also makes you ask a lot more questions, which is good and bad. It makes it, for this alien universe to be a good thing. I mean, Ridley Scott there's so much potential of the timeline, because so it's supposed to be that Prometheus was the first movie, right? Or that takes place first, and then Covenant takes place, and then so Prometheus happens 10 years later, Covenant happens. I think about 50 years later is when the first Alien movie happens. So the way he's setting it up with all these unanswered questions and all these timeline jumps, I think is making it a really good universe to open up and make some really good content. Because, we were talking, so at the end of Covenant, you basically see the final form of the xenomorph. Well, in Alien, they find those eggs on the asteroid, right? How the hell does all those eggs get planted on an asteroid? How does that xenomorph get off that
Engineer planet?
Yeah. But I mean, that's
got to be the third movie. Alien is episode 4, and Prometheus is episode 1, essentially. And they just made episode 2, which was Covenant.
Yeah.
And episode 3 is coming. You know what I mean? And then there's fucking episode 4, which is Alien, and Aliens, and Alien 3, etc., etc.
And yeah, and that gets set up, because I think the next movie is going to be Alien Awakening.
Yeah, so that's going to be like the last part of this prequel trilogy.
And that sets up, because in the very last scenes of Covenant, you find out that you think it's because there's a fight between David and Walter, and you think Walter wins. The way it...
Plot hole, by the way. Huge plot hole.
Yeah, that's true. Because you figure out that Walter is able to self-heal. Like, Walter gets stabbed in the throat by David with some kind of sharp object.
It was a flute or whatever he was playing.
Okay. And then David pulls it out. And then you could see that Walter starts healing himself. He's able to heal himself. David's generation didn't have that. So, fast forward at the end of the movie when they're fighting... Walter has a scratch on his face. He has a big one right here.
Like a knife.
And then 3 right
like
here.
With nails.
And why don't those heal?
Exactly.
So
big plot hole.
Because that's how. So you think that the last scene is Walter's on top of David. You think that Walter's about to kill him or whatever, and they're about to get out. But what you end up finding out is that somehow David had overturned that situation. Killed Walter, marked himself up so he could look like he had the scratches and marks like Walter, and he was able to sneak aboard onto the main colony
ship. Think about
ship.
this. The only people that knew that was a possibility as far as the scars was the audience, right? the main characters of the movie, Tennessee and them, they had no idea that there was gonna be a potential knife fight and fist fight between the androids. They don't know. So what was the point of that? And then why doesn't my man heal himself? Like if they should know that their model is self-regenerating, if anything, why do you still have those scars, Walter? What the hell is the deal? Because Walter's the second generation and David's the first generation, so maybe he wouldn't heal, right? But what's up, Walter? Well, what's the deal? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, you can go on and on. But what do you rate it? What did it satisfy your expectations? Was it everything you dreamed of and more?
It was not everything I dreamed of and more. I wish it was more. I wish it was scarier. I wish I had a couple more, jump at you, make me jump type of scenarios. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 beers. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get a little buzz going after this one.
Right.
It was cool. I mean, it set up more of a storyline. There's a lot more story to be told. I like that. Ridley Scott seems like he has the reins to the Alien universe, so I'm all about it. 4 out of 5. What about you? What are you gonna give it?
Out of 5, I'll give it 3. I
Yeah?
was entertained. Like I wasn't upset that I spent the money, but it definitely didn't live up to the hype in my head.
Okay.
And I think just because I felt like it tried to live up to it, but it was so full of itself at times. Not all the time, but at times I really did feel like, Ridley Scott was just masturbating behind the fucking camera. Like, I'm so intelligent, I'm so creative, and, it just kind of shows in the movie. But I wasn't mad that I watched it. So,
Okay.
for a summer movie, I'll give it 3 out of 5.
All right. Nice. Okay, that's episode 6.
They did it, folks.
He was just asleep. He literally just woke up. He fell asleep the whole entire episode. Next time, hopefully he's awake. And that's been episode 6. Johnny and the Hurricane, Jesse and the Hurricane, Jason and the Hurricane,
It's all J's, who cares?
Jace galore.
It has to be. Whatever.
Cheers. We're out of here.